It is the most protected building on Earth. A house guarded by armies, satellites, and secrets. And yet, again and again, everything has gone wrong here. This is where wars were born in quiet rooms, where lies were written into law, where power collapsed into scandal, where presidents were broken. This house was built to protect democracy, but it has also hidden its darkest failures. Behind these white walls are rooms that have decided the fate of nations and buried the truth when those decisions went wrong. The White House is not just a symbol of power. It is a crime scene of history, and every president who enters it believes they are in control. Until they aren't. Long before it became the most recognizable address on Earth, the land where the White House stands was nothing but swamp, forest, and riverbank. In the late 18th century, there was no Washington, no capital, no grand city of monuments. The United States was a fragile experiment, barely surviving its own revolution. The nation had won independence from the British Empire, but it had not yet proven that it could govern itself. Its leaders understood that symbols mattered. A republic without a throne still needed a seat of power. A democracy without a palace still needed a stage. George Washington personally selected the site for the new capital. He chose a stretch of land along the Potomac River, far from established cities like New York and Philadelphia. Critics mocked the decision. The area was humid, mosquito-ridden, undeveloped. But Washington believed power should not inherit old cities. It should be built from nothing. The capital would rise from wilderness, and at its center would stand a house for the president. Not a palace, not a fortress, not a crown, but a home that would represent authority without monarchy. In 1792, a design competition was announced. Architects from Europe and America submitted grand visions. Domes, towers, monumental structures meant to rival European palaces. But the winning design came from an Irish architect named James Hoban. His proposal was restrained, classical, symmetrical. It drew inspiration from Georgian manor houses and European government residences. The building would communicate order, stability, and permanence. It would not resemble Versailles. It would resemble discipline. Construction began using white sandstone quarried in Virginia and Maryland. The walls were built thick, the windows tall, the layout formal and rigid. Enslaved African Americans labored alongside free workers, cutting stone, lifting beams, shaping the house that would symbolize liberty while being built by people denied it. From the beginning, the White House embodied contradiction. When President John Adams moved into the building in 1800, it was still unfinished. The interior smelled of wet plaster and fresh wood. The Capitol around it was still dirt roads and scattered buildings. Adams wrote that he prayed heaven would grant the best of blessings to the house, and that only honest and wise men would ever rule under its roof. History would not honor that wish. In 1814, during the War of 1812, British troops marched into Washington. The young nation was humiliated. The enemy burned the Capitol. They burned government buildings. And then they burned the president's house. Flames consumed the interior. The roof collapsed. Only the stone walls remained standing. It was the first time the White House became a battlefield. But power does not abandon its throne. The building was rebuilt, restored, and painted white to hide the fire scars. The damage was sealed beneath fresh stone and fresh paint. The message was clear. The seat of power would endure. As the nation expanded westward and upward, the White House evolved. It became more than a residence. It became a machine of government. The West Wing was added. The East Wing followed. Beneath its floors, tunnels and bunkers were carved. Emergency operation centers were built. During the Cold War, the building was engineered to survive nuclear attack. A second White House grew beneath the first. Invisible, fortified, sealed. Above ground, the building performed power. Below ground, it prepared for annihilation. Every president who enters the White House arrives with ambition. But ambition does not survive this building unchanged. Abraham Lincoln walked these halls during the bloodiest war in American history. Night after night, he waited in the telegraph room for battlefield reports. Thousands died with every message. Lincoln aged rapidly. His face grew hollow. His eyes carried the weight of a nation tearing itself apart. When he was assassinated, his body lay in the East Room, the first president to die in the House. The White House had become a place of mourning. A century later, John F. Kennedy brought youth, glamour, and hope into the building. He filled it with art and music. But behind the charm, the world edged closer to nuclear annihilation. During the Cuban Missile Crisis, Kennedy sat inside the White House making decisions that could have ended civilization. 13 days, 13 nights, the fate of humanity balanced on quiet conversations inside sealed rooms. He would not live to see the future he tried to shape. Richard Nixon entered the White House triumphant, promising order and stability. He left it disgraced, fleeing down the South Lawn after Watergate exposed a presidency built on lies, surveillance, and abuse of power. The building had watched another leader collapse. Over time, the White House became not only a center of government, but a theater of control. Every speech is staged, every backdrop chosen, every corridor designed for camera angles. The Oval Office is not simply an office. It is a symbol broadcast to the world. The Rose Garden is not a garden. It is a political stage. The East Room is not a hall. It is a courtroom of public opinion. The building projects certainty, calm, authority. But behind its doors, chaos lives. Wars have been launched here based on intelligence later proven false. Laws have been signed that reshaped entire societies. Surveillance programs have been authorized in secret. Covert operations planned in silence. Assassinations approved with signatures. Millions of lives altered by decisions made in minutes. Power moves quietly in this house. And when power fails, the consequences echo for generations. The White House has been surrounded by protest. Students, veterans, civil rights leaders, anti-war activists, families demanding justice. Over time, fences rose higher, barriers multiplied. Distance grew wider between the people and their power. What was built as a people's house became a fortress, a home with no privacy, a symbol of democracy guarded like a crown, a mansion that functions as a weapon. Every administration promises transparency. Every administration inherits secrecy. The building remembers them all. It remembers the whispered deals, the late-night arguments, the papers burned, the tapes erased, the truths buried. It remembers the fear of invasion, the paranoia of assassination, the weight of command. And it watches as each new president arrives believing they will master it, until they don't. Today, the White House stands as a paradox. It is one of the most photographed buildings on Earth, and one of the least accessible. It appears open, yet is sealed by layers of security. It claims to belong to the people, yet remains unreachable to most of them. It projects democracy, yet operates with imperial authority. It was not built to be beautiful. It was built to be believed. Because belief is stronger than stone. As long as the world believes in what this house represents, its walls will continue to shape history. Not as architecture, not as decoration, but as power. The White House does not speak. It does not confess. It does not apologize. It only stands, watching, waiting, remembering.